I want a divorce. Consider this my notice. The countdown hit 0. Fireworks ripped open the sky. People screamed and kissed and toasted like the world had been reborn. I just nodded, calm enough to scare even myself. Notice received. He blinked at me like I'd spoken the wrong language. He expected tears, rage, begging, anything that proved he still had power over me in the moment he chose to detonate our marriage in public. But I didn't give him that. I smiled, small and controlled, and I didn't explain why. "What are you smiling about?" he demanded, confusion tightening his face. "Just appreciating the timing," I said softly. Very theatrical. "This isn't funny," he snapped. "I didn't say it was," I replied. "I said notice received." We stood there while the sky kept exploding and strangers kept cheering. And the strangest part was how normal my breathing felt. My heart wasn't racing. My hands weren't trembling. It was like my body had already processed what my mind was watching happen in real time. He kept waiting for me to ask why, to fight him, to bargain. "That's it?" he said, voice sharp. "You're not going to fight this? Not going to demand an explanation?" I looked at him, the man I'd been married to for 6 years, and said the only honest thing left. "Would it change your mind if I did?" "No," he said immediately. "My decision is final." "Then there's nothing to fight about," I said. "You made your decision. I'm acknowledging it." We left the party 20 minutes later. His coworkers stared as we walked out, like they could smell drama, but couldn't find the source. The Uber ride home was silent. He kept glancing at me, like he was waiting for me to crack. At home, he went straight to the bedroom without another word. I stayed in the kitchen, made coffee even though it was past midnight, sat alone in the dark, and sent 3 carefully worded text messages. The first to my divorce attorney. Yes, I already had one. The second to my accountant. The third to his boss at the pharmaceutical company, the same person I'd spoken to quietly weeks earlier. Then I set my phone down and listened to the city celebrate while my marriage officially ended. I didn't smile at midnight because I was heartless. I smiled because I knew exactly what was coming next, and for the first time in 3 months, I wasn't the one about to be blindsided. Before that rooftop, before fireworks and silence, there was a life that looked solid from the outside and felt stable enough on the inside that I never questioned it, until it was too late. I'm 33 now. We were married for 6 years. We met in graduate school, the kind of place where ambition feels communal and the future feels negotiable if you just work hard enough. He was sharp, charismatic, always confident in a room. I was quieter, more methodical, the type who plans 3 steps ahead and sleeps better because of it. We made sense on paper. More than that, we felt balanced. After graduation, we built what people like to call a good life. Dual income household, nice apartment in the city, 2 vacations a year, weekend dinners with friends, holidays split neatly between families, nothing flashy, nothing unstable. He went into pharmaceutical sales and did very well, strong base salary, serious commissions. I went into corporate finance, steady income, predictable growth. Not glamorous, but reliable. We split the bills proportionally based on income. It seemed fair. He made about 40% more than I did, and he liked that arrangement. He liked feeling successful. I liked feeling secure. It worked. Or at least I thought it did. Looking back, the small changes started quietly. He traveled more for work. Long days turned into late nights. His phone was always face down. He took calls in other rooms. When I asked how his day went, the answers got shorter, less specific. Busy. Same stuff. You know how it is. I told myself this was normal. Pharmaceutical sales is demanding. Commission pressure does that to people. I didn't want to be the suspicious wife who read meaning into every shift in routine. His coworkers became his primary social circle. High earners, status conscious, conversations full of quotas, bonuses, territories. I met them occasionally at events and parties. They were polite but distant. I was adjacent, not included. The spouse in the background while deals and promotions were discussed. His family noticed the changes before I did. His mother mentioned how driven he seemed lately, how proud she was of his ambition. His father joked about him outgrowing our quieter lifestyle. None of it sounded like criticism at the time, just commentary. What I didn't know was that while I was maintaining our shared life, he was quietly detaching from it. 3 months before New Year's, I found the burner phone. It was hidden in his gym bag, tucked into a pocket he never used. I didn't go looking for it. I found it by accident while folding laundry. The phone was locked, but that night, after too much wine and careless sleep, I unlocked it with his fingerprint. That's when I learned the truth. Months of messages with his regional manager. A woman, married, 2 kids. The texts weren't just flirting, they were plans. Detailed, strategic plans. Plans to leave their marriages. Plans to time the divorces. Plans to maximize what he'd take from me financially. Plans to start over together once the dust settled. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry. I didn't let him know I knew. Instead, I started preparing. Because the moment I understood what he was doing, I also understood something else. This wasn't impulsive. This was calculated. And if he was planning his exit quietly, I needed to protect myself even more carefully. Once I knew, everything I had previously brushed off snapped into focus. The late nights weren't just work. The sudden interest in optimizing our finances wasn't curiosity. The way he started talking about independence, about what's mine versus what's yours, wasn't theoretical anymore. It was rehearsal. He began asking more pointed questions about our accounts. How much was in savings? How bonuses were classified? Whether my year-end compensation counted as marital income. The tone was casual, almost academic, but the timing was too precise to be coincidence. I answered calmly, neutrally. I gave him nothing extra. At the same time, his behavior at home shifted. He was present technically, but emotionally distant. Conversations felt transactional. If I talked about my day, he nodded without really listening. If he talked about work, it was framed like strategy sessions, targets, leverage, positioning. Everything sounded like preparation for something else. His friends noticed the change too. One of them joked one night, "Man, you sound like you're planning a corporate exit, not a marriage." He laughed. I didn't. His family started pressing me in subtle ways. His mother asked if we were still aligned. His father suggested maybe I should consider being more flexible if his career demanded it. No one accused me of anything directly, but I could feel the pressure shifting toward me, like I was being prepped as the reasonable one who would make compromises when the time came. Meanwhile, the messages on the burner phone kept coming. He and his regional manager talked about timing. January was ideal. New year. Clean slate. They talked about optics, how to announce things, who to tell first, how to control the narrative. They joked about me being predictable and practical, about how I'd want to keep things civil and fair. That part stung more than the affair. They assumed I would be cooperative, grateful even, for a clean break. They underestimated me. I spent November and December quietly assembling my own understanding of reality. I hired a forensic accountant, I documented transfers, I tracked bonuses, I saved screenshots. Every late-night call he took became a data point. Every financial question he asked became a confirmation. I didn't change my behavior at home. I cooked, I listened, I smiled. I played my role well enough that he never suspected I was already 3 steps ahead. The tension built, not outwardly, but internally. Every shared meal felt like a performance. Every casual touch felt staged. I started sleeping lighter, thinking clearer, moving carefully. By the time New Year's Eve arrived, I wasn't nervous. I was ready. Because when someone starts treating a marriage like a transaction, they shouldn't be surprised when the other person reads the fine print. New Year's Eve started like a performance we both knew by heart. We went to a rooftop party downtown with his work friends, people I'd met a dozen times but never truly connected with. High earners, status conscious, conversations built from restaurant names, vacation destinations, and bonus structures. I nursed a beer near the edge of the roof while he floated from group to group, champagne flute in hand, laughing at jokes I wasn't part of. The night air was cold, sharp against my skin. The city below us pulsed with light, impatient for midnight. I watched him work the room the way he always did, confident, practiced, already elsewhere. If I hadn't known what I knew, I might have blamed myself for the distance between us. Around 11:30, he touched my elbow. "We need to talk," he said. "Now?" I asked. "Yes, now." He guided me toward a quieter corner of the rooftop. Music thumped behind us. People shouted over each other, already drunk on anticipation. The city stretched out beneath us, all glass and glow. "I've been thinking about this for months," he said, voice steady, as if he were delivering a presentation. "I can't keep pretending." My stomach dropped, not from surprise, but from confirmation. "Pretending what?" "That I'm happy, that this marriage is working." He didn't hesitate. "I'm not happy anymore." I kept my voice even. "Okay, that's something we can work on. Counseling? Time? We can. I don't want to work on it, he cut in. I don't want to reconnect. I want out. People surged closer to us as the countdown approached, pressing in for better views. Someone bumped my shoulder. I didn't move. I've already spoken to a lawyer, he continued. Did the consultation 3 weeks ago. I'm filing for divorce next week. Consider this your official notice. Fireworks from a nearby building went off early, scattering color across the sky. 7, someone shouted. 6. I looked at him, at the calm certainty on his face, at the months of planning I already knew about. Notice received, I said flatly. 5, 4. He watched me closely, searching for something. Anger, panic, collapse. 3, 2. The sky exploded at 1. People screamed, kissed, raised glasses. Champagne sprayed, music swelled. I smiled. Why are you smiling? He asked, thrown off. What's wrong with you? Nothing, I said. Just appreciating the timing. This isn't funny. I didn't say it was, I replied. I said notice received. What happens next? He demanded. We divide everything fairly, he said quickly, as if reading from a script. My lawyer will contact you next week. We can do this civilly. Sounds good, I said. Should we head home or stay for the party? He stared at me, confused. That's it? You're not going to fight this? Ask why. Would it change your mind if I did? No, my decision is final. Then there's nothing to fight about, I said. You've made your decision. I'm acknowledging it. We left 20 minutes later. His coworkers watched us go, curious. The Uber ride home was silent. He kept glancing at me, waiting for a crack. I watched the city celebrate through the window, my reflection steady. At home, he went straight to the bedroom. I stayed in the kitchen, made coffee though it was past midnight, sat in the dark, and sent 3 messages, carefully worded, precise. First to my divorce attorney. He announced it at midnight. Proceed with everything we discussed. Second to my accountant. Execute the financial arrangements tomorrow morning. Third, to his boss at the pharmaceutical company. Per our conversation last month, he's announced the divorce. You'll receive the documentation Monday as promised. I didn't smile because I was cruel. I smiled because the moment he chose to end our marriage publicly was the moment my preparation became visible, and his plans began to unravel. The apartment felt unfamiliar once the door closed behind us. Same walls, same furniture, different air. He went straight to the bedroom without a word, like he needed physical distance to protect the story he'd just told himself, that he was in control, that he'd handled this cleanly, that he'd surprise me. I stayed in the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound, the coffee mug warm in my hands. I wasn't numb, I was focused. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I didn't check it. I already knew who it would be, my attorney, confirming receipt, lining up next steps. I wanted to sit with my own body for a moment, feel what was actually happening inside me. My breathing was steady. My shoulders weren't tense. The panic I'd imagined for months never arrived. That scared me a little. I walked to the window and looked down at the street. Drunk strangers hugged, fireworks echoed, laughter spilled into the cold night. Somewhere between those sounds, my marriage had ended. I waited for grief to crash into me. It didn't. Instead, I felt a strange, quiet relief. Not happiness, relief. Relief that the pretending was over. Relief that I didn't have to keep acting surprised by distance I'd already mapped. Relief that the truth was finally allowed to exist in the open. Around 2 a.m. I went to bed. He was already asleep, or pretending to be. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying the last 3 months not with regret, but with confirmation. Every late night, every whispered call, every financial question. It all lined up now, clean and undeniable. At 6 a.m., I woke up without an alarm. I made breakfast like it was any other day. Eggs, toast, coffee. The ritual grounded me. When he emerged from the bedroom around 8, his face looked tight, exhausted, like he'd spent the night rehearsing conversations he didn't get to have. Coffee? I asked, holding up the pot. He hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, thanks. We sat at the kitchen table in silence. His phone lay face down next to his plate. Mine stayed in my pocket, vibrating occasionally. I ignored it. At exactly 8:47 a.m., his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered cautiously. Hello? Yes, this is him. A pause. What? Another pause, longer this time. When did this happen? I watched the color drain from his face. This has to be a mistake, he said into the phone. Some kind of error. He hung up slowly, staring at the screen like it had betrayed him. That was my bank, he said, voice unsteady. Someone drained my private savings account. $30,000. Gone overnight. I tilted my head, concerned, but calm. That's terrible. Identity theft, maybe. You should call them back right away. He did. Then his credit card company. Then his investment account. With every call, his breathing grew sharper, his voice more frantic. I listened without interrupting, the clink of my fork against the plate loud in the quiet kitchen. An hour later, he slammed his phone down. This is insane. My lawyer said that account was protected. Separate property. Which lawyer? I asked gently. The one I consulted last month, he said. The one who's representing me. You might want to call them, I said, about that. He did. 20 minutes on hold, pacing, hands shaking. Finally, a voice on the other end. What do you mean you can't represent me? He snapped. We had an agreement. I paid a retainer. He listened, then went very still. Conflict of interest? He repeated. That doesn't make sense. He hung up and stared at me, disbelief etched into his face. They can't represent me anymore. It made perfect sense to me, because 2 months earlier, I'd consulted a junior partner at that firm first, quietly establishing attorney-client privilege. Once that was in place, the firm was barred from representing him against me. It wasn't a trick. It was procedure. His phone rang again. This time he recognized the number. His regional manager. He answered, voice tight. Hey, what's going on? It's New Year's Day. Can this wait? He listened. His shoulders slumped. I'll call you back, he said, and ended the call. They want me in the office, he said hollowly. Emergency meeting. Compliance issues. I looked at the clock. Need a ride? No, he said quickly. I'll take an Uber. He left 30 minutes later, still in yesterday's rumpled clothes, hair barely brushed, eyes unfocused. I cleaned the dishes, folded a load of laundry, turned on the TV, and waited. My phone buzzed again, my attorney. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. And for the first time since he'd said the word divorce, I felt the weight of it land. Not as fear, but as inevitability. He came back at noon. I heard the door before I saw him. The way it closed too hard, like he didn't mean to slam it, but didn't have the control not to. I was in the living room, paperwork spread neatly across the coffee table, not because I needed to review it, but because I needed to stay grounded in facts while his world was unraveling in real time. He walked in already crying, not the quiet kind, the angry, breathless kind where emotions trip over each other and nothing comes out clean. You did this, he said, voice cracking. You had to have done this. I looked up at him slowly. Done what? Everything, he snapped. The accounts, the lawyer, my job, all of it. This is your doing. I'm behind you getting called into work on New Year's Day? I asked calmly. He ran a hand through his hair. I got fired, he said. Terminated. Effective immediately. Ethics violations. Inappropriate relationship with a superior. I didn't react. I didn't need to. How did they even know? He demanded. They had screenshots, texts, private messages. They said it was an anonymous tip, but I know it was you. When would I have gotten screenshots from a phone I didn't know existed? I asked evenly. He froze for half a second, just enough. I don't know, he said, backing away from logic. But it had to be you, or maybe his wife found out, or someone at work saw us together. Maybe, I said, or maybe you weren't as careful as you thought. The truth was simpler. Mid-December, I'd sent those screenshots to his company's HR department. Anonymous email, untraceable account. Their policies were clear. No relationships between managers and direct reports. He had violated them. So had she. Consequences were automatic. This is going to ruin me, he said, collapsing onto the couch. My career is over. You violated company policy, I replied. That has consequences. Stop being so calm, he snapped. This is revenge. You set me up. No, I said. I documented your affair. I protected marital assets you tried to hide. I ensured you couldn't use a conflicted lawyer. Those aren't setups. Those are responses. He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. You knew, he said slowly. You knew the whole time. I found your burner phone in October, I said. I read everything. Every plan, every message, every joke at my expense. You and her planning your future while I paid the bills. So you just waited, he accused. Planned all this. You spent 3 months planning how to leave me, I said. I spent 3 months planning how to protect myself. He pulled out his phone, started typing frantically, calling someone, her, the affair partner. No answer. He's not picking up, he said, panic rising. He's not answering. Probably busy, I said. He got fired too, and his wife probably found out. You told his wife, he said, eyes wide. I didn't have to, I replied. His company handled that. He likely went home fired on New Year's Day. You can imagine how that conversation went. This is cruel, he said. This is vindictive. This is accountability, I said. You planned to divorce me, hide assets, and walk away clean. I made sure that didn't happen. I'm going to fight this, he said desperately. I'll take you for everything. With what lawyer? I asked. With what money? He stood abruptly, grabbing his keys. I need to leave. Where will you go? I asked. A hotel? A friend's place? He didn't answer. Take what you need, I said. Your lawyer will be in touch. I don't have a lawyer, he muttered. Then you should find one, I said. The clock's ticking. He left that night with a suitcase gone by 8. The apartment felt bigger, quieter, lighter. And for the first time since October, I slept through the night. The quiet after he left wasn't peaceful. It was hollow. I stood in the doorway for a long time after the elevator doors closed, listening to the buildings settle around me. The apartment felt too clean, too orderly, like it was waiting for instructions. His side of the closet was half empty. The bed looked wrong with only one pillow disturbed. That night, the adrenaline finally wore off. I sat on the floor of the living room with my back against the couch and let the weight of it all press down on me at once. 6 years. Graduate school, late-night study sessions, inside jokes, shared routines. The version of us I had believed in didn't disappear just because I uncovered the truth. It still existed in my memory, and grieving that version hurt in a way no legal victory could soften. I questioned myself in the quiet. Was I too calculated? Did I wait too long? Did protecting myself turn me into someone colder than I wanted to be? I replayed October, the night I found the burner phone, over and over. The moment my hands shook as I scrolled, the nausea, the disbelief, the choice I made not to confront him. Not because I was afraid, but because I needed time to think clearly, to act deliberately, to not be destroyed by impulse the way he was about to be destroyed by consequences. Still, sitting there alone, the doubts crept in. I cried then. Not loud, not dramatic, the kind of crying that comes from exhaustion, where your chest tightens and tears fall without ceremony. I mourned the marriage I thought I had. I mourned the trust I gave freely. I mourned the woman I was before suspicion became a survival skill. For the first time, I felt truly alone. Friends texted to check in, but I didn't respond. My attorney emailed updates, but I skimmed them without absorbing details. Even the sense of justice I'd felt earlier dimmed, replaced by a heavy sadness that no amount of preparation could prevent. That was the lowest point. Not when he announced the divorce, not when he accused me of ruining him, but when I realized that doing everything right doesn't spare you from pain. It only spares you from being powerless inside it. Sometime after midnight, I got up and stood in front of the bathroom mirror. My eyes were red, my face drawn, but there was something else there too, resolve. I looked at myself and said quietly, "You did what you had to do." I didn't fully believe it yet, but I needed to hear it. The next morning, I woke with a dull ache behind my eyes and a decision forming beneath the fatigue. I couldn't stay in that hollow place. I couldn't let grief rewrite the truth I already knew. The dark moment didn't break me. It forced me to choose what kind of woman I would be after everything fell apart. The shift didn't come with relief. It came with clarity. The morning after that hollow night, I woke up early and opened the blinds. Winter light spilled into the apartment, pale and unforgiving, illuminating everything I'd been avoiding. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, not scrolling, not texting, not reacting, just breathing and letting the reality settle without distortion. For months, I had been operating in preparation mode, anticipating, documenting, protecting. That phase was over. What came next required something different from me. I realized I had been framing the last 3 months as defense, as survival, as strategy. But if I stayed there, if I defined myself by what I'd protected against, I would keep living in reaction to him. I didn't want my future shaped by the worst version of someone else. So I made a decision. I would stop narrating this story as a battle I won and start understanding it as a boundary I set. I met my attorney that afternoon. We went through the timeline calmly, methodically. He confirmed what I already knew. The court order regarding the concealed funds was solid. The conflict of interest issue with the firm was clean. The documentation of the affair and policy violations was airtight. There was nothing reckless about what I'd done, nothing emotional, Nothing that would backfire. You didn't escalate, he said. You responded. That distinction mattered more than I expected. Later that evening, I spoke to my accountant. We adjusted projections, restructured accounts, planned for the transition ahead. Numbers on a page, steady and predictable, reminded me that my life was still mine to manage, still intact. Then I called my sister. I hadn't told her everything before, not because I didn't trust her, but because I needed to be sure of my footing before inviting anyone else into the weight of it. I told her the whole story now, the burner phone, the preparation, the rooftop, the aftermath. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said quietly, I'm proud of you. Not I'm sorry. Not, that must be hard. I'm proud of you. That was the moment it clicked. I hadn't just protected assets, I had protected my dignity. I went for a long walk that night. No destination, just movement. I felt my shoulders loosen, my breath deepen. I wasn't numb anymore. I wasn't furious. I was grounded. I could finally see the outline of a future that wasn't reactive or defensive, just deliberate. When I got home, I packed away the documents on the coffee table and cleared the space. I didn't erase the past. I contained it. That was the turning point. Not when he lost his job. Not when the accounts were frozen. Not when the lawyer withdrew. It was the moment I chose to stop letting his betrayal dictate the shape of my life and started choosing it for myself. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It rolled in slowly, through phone calls I didn't answer and updates I didn't ask for. My attorney sent the first formal packet the next morning. Comprehensive, clinical, every transfer documented, every account traced, screenshots time-stamped, bank records aligned. The narrative was no longer emotional, it was factual. And facts, unlike feelings, don't argue back. He hired a new lawyer by midweek, younger, less experienced, likely the only one willing to step in on short notice without touching the conflicts his first firm couldn't untangle. Their opening position was aggressive, 60% of assets, spousal support, urgency. It read like a bluff meant to regain momentum. My attorney responded with a single paragraph. If your client wishes to litigate, we are prepared to present all evidence of marital asset concealment and an extramarital relationship with a direct superior in open court, where it becomes public record. 48 hours later, the tone changed. The demands softened. The percentages adjusted. Reality set in. Meanwhile, his world kept shrinking. His company finalized the termination. Compliance violations. Ethics breach. He was escorted out quietly. Benefits severed. Access revoked. The regional manager, the woman he'd planned a future with, was terminated as well. Her husband filed for divorce within the week and moved for primary custody. The relationship they'd imagined didn't survive contact with consequences. His parents called me, not to argue, to apologize. We didn't raise him to do this, his mother said, voice tight. You were always good to him. I know, I said gently. He made choices. His father asked if there was anything they could do to help. I told them the truth. Let the legal process play out, fairly. They agreed. No theatrics, no pressure. 2 weeks after New Year's, he called me from a number I didn't recognize, a new phone. Can we talk? He asked. I made a mistake, a huge one. You want to reconcile? I asked, already knowing the answer. I want to try, he said. We built something. Maybe we can rebuild. No, I said. Just one word, clean, final. He pleaded, explained, minimized, said the affair wasn't serious, said he was confused, said he was scared. You planned for 3 months, I said. You had an affair. You tried to hide marital assets. You announced a divorce at midnight on New Year's Eve in front of strangers. There's nothing left to discuss. You're doing this out of revenge, he accused. This is accountability, I replied. You wanted a divorce. You're getting one that reflects reality, not the fantasy you planned. He hung up crying. I blocked the number. The settlement finalized in March. He received what the law required. No more. No spousal support. The higher earner doesn't get rewarded for misconduct. He moved back with his parents. Started over. I didn't celebrate. I exhaled. Because the truth is, fallout isn't about watching someone else fall. It's about watching the noise clear and realizing you're still standing. The divorce finalized in March. No dramatic courtroom scene. No last-minute confessions. Just signatures, timestamps, and a quiet sense of finality. He received his share of the marital assets, reduced after accounting for the money he'd tried to hide and the legal costs his choices created. No spousal support. He'd been the higher earner for most of our marriage, and 6 years wasn't long enough to justify it anyway. When the paperwork was done, I sat alone in the apartment that had once felt too big and too quiet. This time, the silence didn't ache. It settled. People ask me if I feel guilty about how everything unfolded, if I regret not confronting him sooner, if I think I went too far by preparing instead of reacting. I don't. He made calculated choices over 3 months. He planned an affair, he planned a divorce, he planned to walk away with hidden assets and a clean narrative. I didn't destroy his life. I refused to let him dismantle mine. The smile at midnight wasn't about revenge, it was about relief. Relief that I had listened to my instincts instead of dismissing them. Relief that I'd chosen preparation over panic. Relief that I didn't beg someone to stay who had already left in every way that mattered. What I learned through all of this is simple, but not easy. Love doesn't require blindness. Trust doesn't mean surrendering awareness. And being calm in a crisis isn't cold, it's powerful. I didn't win because he lost his job or his affair collapsed. I won because I didn't abandon myself when the truth surfaced. I didn't let shock dictate my future. I didn't trade dignity for closure. If there's one lesson I'd leave you with, it's this. When someone is quietly planning to exit your life, don't rush to confront them just to feel something. Take a breath. Get clear. Protect yourself. Let the truth finish speaking before you do. The silence after his phone rang that New Year's morning said everything. He had run out of moves. I hadn't. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. And clarity, once you have it, is impossible to unlearn.